First, I'd like to say thank you to all of you that are attending this morning's ceremony. I believe it speaks volumes about each of you. Taking the time to recognize the importance of this solemn occasion is something that I believe sets you apart. And I think that's something that you should be proud of. So thank you. Thank you one and all. We've gathered today to remember and honor the sacrifice of each and every brave man and woman, citizen, sailor, soldier, and airman, Marine that has given their ultimate sacrifice and died in the service of our country in a time of war or conflict. Over 1.3 million American servicemen and women have laid down their lives in war. Only 25,000 of those lives were lost in the War of Independence. The remainder have been lost safeguarding that freedom from all threats from all corners of this globe. Take a moment to think about what that means. What it means is that it's far more difficult to hold on to freedom than it is to win it. And holding on to the cause called freedom requires far more than some brave people willing to fight when the advantage is theirs. What is it that makes the American ideal of freedom so powerful that our patriots are willing to sacrifice everything for it? I believe it's really rather simple. Freedom is a gift from God that cannot be compromised, it cannot be negotiated, cannot be bargained or bartered. The love of freedom is ingrained so deeply in our psyche that it is simply incomprehensible to ever accept the possibility of living in the bonds of servitude or under the boots of tyranny. As the world wars of the last century so horribly demonstrated, freedom once lost is very expensive and sometimes impossible to regain, both in terms of monetary cost and the incalculable human suffering that shatters the very foundations of societies and cultures. America has never before, is not now, and will never be a nation that can depend on any other country to come to her rescue if we're attacked. We are unique in that if America ever falls, the flame of liberty will be snuffed out. It is that sobering reality that makes the American experiment called freedom the biggest gamble that the world has ever seen. It's an all or nothing, zero-sum proposition. You either have it or you don't. Freedom or servitude, it's that simple. It's that sobering reality that permits Americans to unhesitatingly and without reservation willingly lay down their lives defending this country. The people, the way of life, and the ideal called freedom that just a couple hundred years ago was so radical that it was beyond the understanding of most people. Since the birth of this country, the United States of America has been blessed with men and women that understood that there is more to wresting freedom from a tyrant than wistfully longing for it or accepting it as the norm once it has been won. They understood that those entrusted to valiantly guard that freedom may be called upon to give their lives, and they've done so. They understood. They understood that they had a solemn duty, a duty that throughout history a relatively few people have been asked to perform. They understood freedom is something fragile, something to be cherished, loved and cared for, and guarded like a vulnerable child. They understood that freedom is never free. They understood. They understood that whatever the price of freedom, it's never too great a price to pay. They understood that from the time the first musket shot rang out and the gun smoke wafted through the air at Lexington, right up to the present time, that freedom is only enjoyed by those that are willing to pay for it. They understood the currency freedom is paid for with is in blood. They understood that the freedom they were fighting and dying for was not theirs, but the freedom of future generations. They understood. They were willing to give their greatest possession as a gift to all Americans and for an ideal that transcends any material gain or personal comfort they may have enjoyed if only they'd look away and let somebody else carry the burden. But they did not look away. They understood. We need to understand that these brave patriots have throughout the history of this country never faltered, when asked to carry the torch of freedom. We need to understand that the gift they gave to you and they gave to me. We need to remember that these gifts were selflessly given by our loved ones, our sons and daughters, our mothers and fathers, and our sisters and brothers. Today, we can only bow our heads and humbly thank them for that gift of freedom paid for with their lives. For that, the American people will forever be indebted. I'd like to borrow a quote from Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address that he delivered on November 19th, 1863, at the dedication of the Soldiers' National Cemetery. I believe it's timeless and it bears repeating often. And the quote is, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave their last full measure of devotion, that we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain. In closing, I would like to say thank you. Thank you for being the American citizen that actually knows and respects what Memorial Day represents. Thank you for taking time to honor our fallen countrymen and saying a prayer for all the American men and women that have selflessly laid down their lives defending the freedom that we as a people enjoy today. And most of all, I would like to thank those men and women that have given their lives in defense of this great nation. We owe you a debt that can never be repaid. May God bless you. Thank you very much.
Chapter Adjutant Deborah Jittison will now read the roll call of deceased members of the chapter. These are the chapter members who